Welcome back to MKG Detroit. Hubud is one of our favorite things that we do here at our gym in Metro Detroit. Hubud will come to you through your own instructors or whatever via an empty hand format or a weaponry format. That could include a stick, it could include a dagger. Your teacher, your group, or your exposure to it will kind of give you different roads through the same area of study. They're all very interconnected, if not 100% related. And so what we're going to look at today is some of the relationship between Hubud with the single stick and Hubud empty hand. Hubud is going to be utilizing, because we're in such close proximity to one another, the puño for striking, not the middle or the long tip of the stick here. It's really just about attribute development. So we're working on things like spatial awareness, timing, distance, rhythm. Those are always the big ones. Visual acuity, some creative striking, understanding how to move with, to dissolve, to be contrary to, or to work in conjunction with different types of pressure, right? To analyze that in the moment and let your body just respond. That's the function of this. It's a little more like hitting a double end bag or a speed bag than hitting a heavy bag, and it sure isn't really, for right now at least, anything like sparring. So what Byron's going to do is feed what we would consider an angle one, sort of a classic towards the temple feed, but because we're in such close proximity where we could just about reach out and touch each other in the shoulder like that, he's going to feed the angle one with the puño here. Okay, so when he does, instead of letting him hammer this in my face, I'm going to stop it with my forearm. The way that our group does this, you're horizontal, your shoulder is relaxed, your hand is lined up in the center. With the weapon, we've got a lot of downward force and we've got extension from his tool. So we're going to capture this momentum a little bit and own it for just a beat. Effectively, we want this shape, but I may choose to let my hand come to rest and just grasp lightly the top of his forearm. Okay, then when I lift underneath, forearm to forearm, stick to stick. That's 90% of it. Forearm to forearm, stick to stick. If you look here, we have a shape that's developed. It's almost like a diamond here. So I made contact with my arm, and I made contact with my stick, not one or the other, or one and then the other, both at the same time. So that when I receive this momentum here, and I dissolve it to the other side, I've got full control over this exchange. What you'll find is if I only use my forearm, he's going to tick me in the head, right? Even by accident, if I just put a little bit of momentum in there, see the stick starts to bounce, I'm going to get hit by design or by circumstance. So I need to make sure I account for that with my stick. I close his weapon off. But if I only have stick or too much stick, he's going to feel that, he's going to ride underneath and get me. So even though this isn't necessarily contact training, it's not necessarily attack and defense training, we can still build those habits into this generator. So he comes downward, I receive, I lift, forearm to forearm, stick to stick. Once I cross my center line, I do not need to go much further than that. I'm going to suppress his forearm with my hand, basic trapping motion, and I feed. And now he's going to practice the same thing. Slight capture, dissolves over stick to stick, hand to hand, and feeds, and I do the same thing. So you can practice this with your feet square. That's honestly how we usually do it. If you'd like to try right lead or left lead or kind of play between both, I think that's a really good idea. We'll often do that as well. If you're new to this, definitely my suggestion is to start with your feet square so you don't have to worry too much about the lower line positioning. Second variation on single stick hubud is when he feeds this puño, instead of stopping with my forearm and then dissolving, I'm just going to go straight to dissolve, which is I'm going to pass or parry his stick. Okay, so when he feeds, I practice passing here, and then he does the same. Now, be mindful of where your knees are and where you pass the stick. So I don't want to allow this to come and make contact with my knee. If I wanted to or needed to, I could move that foot out and back. It's kind of a fun element to add to it. But again, if you're new to this, don't load it up with too many things. Busy enough as it is. And when we're ready, we can lace these things together. So I could pass this way, and I could just pass this way. Angle one to angle one. Same feed, so he doesn't really care which one I do. It won't change the game at all on his end if I play back and forth. Third option for today, when he feeds this puño down the center, I'm gonna stall it like we did this capture and pass over. But instead, I'm gonna stop it and I'm gonna roll it. When he feeds that angle one, I'm gonna stall this here with the forearm. When I feel that pressure come towards center, I'm gonna use my elbow and my body position. If my center line is right here, which it is, I need to turn to dissolve that through the center line. When that happens, that's great. I've at least completed the objective of getting his hand, the motor of that stick across the center. But the tip of his weapon will still be in place. So if we watch here, 1, 2, abanico tip, right? So we have to continue to account for the tip of the stick. So when I stop this inside, what I roll to dissolve, I'm gonna let the top of my forearm and near my wrist, maybe even the back of the hand, make contact with his stick so I can dissolve that into his body. I'm not really trying to pin it so much as I am just wanting to account for it. Catch, shift, suppress. Catch, shift, suppress. Which should eventually just turn into a roll and dissolve, right? So it stops being 3 static movements and rolls into a single motion. So if we put all the elements together, then it should at least look something along these lines. So we have this catch, lift, and pat version, which is kind of the standard classic version of hubud. There's a basic parry motion, just on the forehand. There's other options, including the backhand. We can look at those another time. So right now we've got forehand motions, which may include the threading of the fingers, like this. And then if I find myself inside, maybe I have to roll to get to the outside, either, again, by choice, design, circumstance, whatever it is. Okay, so if you already have some experience with this and you want to pepper in a little bit of a shot on some of these, add a little bit of dessert on top, then we'll just take these real quick lightning rounds. So first one, catch, lift, pat, right? Catch, lift, pat. Well, when we're here, catch, lift, pat. See, his tip is left, this line is open. He could try to tick this over, snap that into my ribs, or just throw a little bit of a backhand horizontal shot to the body, like so, right? So he could snap it, he could push it, whatever he wants. If my hand is palm up, and we can address that in a future video, you'll see this a lot, that will help jam him up. But if I'm learning this palm down, which for today we are, he can probably shoot right underneath and just go, right? So that means that's an option for him along the way, is he can, anytime he wants to, just find that nice little shot, right? So he can cut it short, I'm not worried about getting hit, or he can tap me a little bit, remind me, hey, this is always a possibility here, watch yourself, right? So second option, on the pass, when he feeds, so we're parrying from the outside. My tip is left while I parry. There's no reason I can't sneak this shot in while I pass here. This basic parrying from the outside, but any one of us could at any time sneak that one in. You could do this on a half beat of some kind. You could do it in a single beat, so that could be 1.5, 1.5, or 1, 1, 1, 1, none, right? Whatever you like. And I could go back to this one. Maybe I sneak this one in here. And then I go back to this motion. I sneak that one in there. So if he feeds this empty hand, he's going to feed with the hammer of his hand or a little bit with his forearm. I ask him to feed more towards my temple. So first one, we stopped with the forearm. We lifted, we patted down, right? So now we just have our classic angle one standard feed for hubud, what we call generator here at MKG Detroit. So again, he feeds, catch, lift, pat, catch, lift, pat. I get to practice this slowly, as does he, and it's all chained together, single flow. Basic hubud generator. If you're doing the version where you were sneaking that shot in on the low line with this, then obviously you can do this empty hand as well. So I get hit here, he could backhand me to the ribs, here, 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 right? And if you like each other, you don't, you can make a little slap. Next one is we go from here to the parry, right? Just hard parry. Okay, so this is this much simpler version is when I feed him, he parries from the outside, I parry from the outside, outside, outside. This one's kind of fun because you can really open this up if you want. Right? I feel like I can really chamber this and smash. When he comes through, I'm going to really move my body, engage my hips, get my footwork involved, pass that through so that I create this space. A lot of versions of C-Law, you'll see something very similar to this effect, especially if you have the wonderful opportunity to train with somebody like Master Mal Borney. So you'll see that kind of movement a lot. And that's not what we're doing here, but you could use that as a much better reference than anything I'm going to give you for how to see this coming, shift that body to the side, and create these openings here like this. So, nice parrying motion from the outside, or catch, lift, pat, parry, parry, parry. If you're new to this, preset it. Once, twice, 3 times, once, twice, you get the idea, right? Otherwise, just freestyle, jam out, play back and forth between the two of them. I could insert this shot here, so could he. And then on the parrying motion, if I wanted to sneak that in as a shot or as a shot here, I could do that, right? It might break your game up a little bit, but you're gonna try and see what works for you. Okay, so then the last one is I roll, right? So when this comes in, I meet this horizontal, let my elbow come up and over, and roll with that backhand shot. Again, the feed comes in here and we roll. This is really nice when he has a straight feed, like if you play vertical hubud with that more vertical fist thumbs up kind of punching, because it will sneak in very, very quickly. But you can do it with this hammer as well, by all means, like this. Okay, if you want to game off of this, ask him to put that barrier up so that when you roll into your backhand, you run into this. Now you can work whatever kind of trapping sets you like from here. Roll. Roll. Just make sure you're getting a little bit of some pressure and suppression through this arm. Feel like that. And again, 1, 1, 1. So we have catch, lift, pat. We have parry from the outside. And insert to roll. Just like with the weapon. And so remember, he could have a weapon in his hand and I don't. We could take turns in that game, 2 weapons, whatever we like. But now we got a good format to play off of. So that's it for today. Thanks for checking us out. Don't forget to check out, we've got some dirty boxing events coming up where we're going to look at the relationship. It's called Seek and Destroy, the relationship between the destructive striking found in the Brananan Silat Sufi and Baladiri will be taught here at our gym with Dr. Eric Greenberg, who's the head of the SSBD contingent here in Michigan, and as well as the co-head for the United States. And then I'll be teaching a section on Panatukan. So hitting to destroy or seeking to destroy incoming blows along the way. And we're going to try to examine the relationship a little bit between those two, compare and contrast, etc. So if that's appealing, you can find that on our website, mkgdetroit.com. We appreciate your time. Thanks for checking us out. Thank you, Byron. You guys have a good day.